In this short video tutorial, we're going to be introduced to the Smart Table Toolkit. So you'll see I have the icon here on my desktop, just like any other program. Double click and it's going to open that program that I can use to create and edit Smart Table activity packs. So on the left-hand side, we see all the different applications in which we could build an activity for our students. We have a link here at the top to go out to the Smart Exchange and search for online activity packs. We have an open option here that would allow us to browse our desktop for an activity pack that we may have already found on the Smart Exchange and downloaded that we wanted to open in the toolkit and edit. But what we're going to look at is this option to build one from scratch. So before we begin adding the different applications over here, one of the options that you have is to create a landing page that the students will see as soon as they open the activity. And what can be included in your landing page is some sort of a background image that might even have a title to the activity, and also some instructions that might display around the outside of the smart table and might even be read to the students through the audio. So let's take a look at these options for a background image as well as those instructions. So beginning with our background image, you've got the option to import an image that you might have saved somewhere on your desktop. Find an image from the Smart Gallery, and this is the same gallery that you have access to through Smart Notebook. If you had copied an image from someplace, you would be able to choose this paste button here to simply paste the image into the background area here. And then lastly, our red X allows us to delete an image that we may have brought in that we're not happy with. So what I'm going to show you is how you can custom create a background image that might include a lesson title in it as well. So I'm going to minimize the table toolkit here for just a moment, and I'm going to show you a picture that I've already created and saved on my desktop. And what I used to create this was actually Smart Notebook software. So I found this image on the web that just had all of these, they look like refrigerator magnet numbers to me, and then some of those symbols that are commonly used, multiplication, subtraction, addition, things like that. But rather than just having this background image, I wanted the students to be able to see, in addition to those numbers and symbols, that this entire lesson is about their basic math facts. So I just typed these three words, basic math facts, over top of those numbers that I brought in, and then I grouped the two together. I came up to File and chose Export As, and chose image file. And it immediately gives me the option to export it as a PNG file, and that's a good thing. And in just a moment, when we go back to our toolkit, we'll take a look at the acceptable files for that import for a background image option that we saw just a moment ago. So I'm not going to go any further with this export option because, as you saw, I already have it saved on my desktop. So I'm going to minimize my Smart Notebook again. And here's where we have that image. I called it Math Facts, and I'm going to bring my table toolkit back up on the screen and go into my import. So as we saw, that is saved on my desktop. And here it is. So before I click on it, I told you a moment ago I was going to show you those acceptable file types for an image. The Smart Table Toolkit will allow you to bring in a JPEG, a GIF, a PNG or PNG, a BMP or bitmap, a TIFF, and then lastly, there's also a file type called a .gallery item. And that's actually what the things in the Smart Gallery are. They are .gallery items. So I'm going to choose this PNG that I have saved here and click Open. And whenever you bring in an image, it shows you what it would look like with the current crop. So on the left-hand side here, we can see that they've drawn a box around it. The box allows a little bit of white space around the outside of it. I could grab one of these corners and try and bring it down, a little less white space in there, something like that. And when I'm happy with what I see on the right-hand side, I click OK. So this is the background image that my students are going to see when they click and open this activity pack on their smart table. Let's transition away from background image and let's talk about that option to include instructions. Instructions that could be displayed not only along the edges of the SMART table when the students open the activity pack, but again, instructions that might include audio, or I might be able to have the instructions read to the students if I choose. Now, when I'm typing my instructions into this box, notice what it says right above the box where my cursor currently is. It says I have a maximum of 45 characters to type my instructions. Now, the reason that they give you such limited character count for your instructions is because this text has to fit along the edges of the SMART table where it's going to be displayed. And if you type too much, you end up with either multiple lines of instructions or you end up with a font that is too small for the students to see. So 45 characters is the limit for the default font size to fit along this edge of the table where it's going to be displayed. So that's important when you're thinking about typing your instructions because you've really got to simplify them down to get into that 45 character limit. So I'm going to type in this activity pack will help with math facts. But maybe that's not detailed enough for my students, or maybe my students aren't reading independently yet. And that's where this audio component becomes very important. So when it comes to instructions, we have three options for audio. The one that's selected right now is no audio at all. If the students want to understand the instructions, they read them. The next option is read instructions. And this actually means the table is going to read the instructions for the students. And anybody who's worked with the GPS on a regular basis knows what those computer animated voices sound like nowadays. They do okay, but they have a little trouble with pronunciation. Sometimes if a word has several syllables, they run them together. They don't put the correct emphasis on the right syllables, or they make long I's into short I's, etc. So whenever you choose read instructions, always make sure that you listen to it before you give that option to the students, because although the computer voices are much better than they used to be, they're still not perfect. And then our last option down here is what SMART calls import audio, which allows me to do my own recording. But here's what I really like about import audio. Not only is it an option to truly import an audio file that I already have saved and created somewhere, but import includes this option to record my own audio right here inside of the table toolkit. So if I am concerned about the way that the table is going to read the instructions to the students, I just record my own audio and I make sure that I put the right emphasis where it should be, that I read things at an appropriate speed for my learners to understand it, all of those things that I can get when I record my own. So I'm just going to click on the microphone here, and it's going to open up this box that tells me that it's using the microphone I'm already using to record this video. I've got a start recording button. Underneath is the playback recording, attach. We'll see those in just a moment. So I'm going to click start recording, and I'm actually going to give my students a little more detail than what I typed into that show instructions window there. Students, in this activity pack, you will be given a chance to practice with your addition and subtraction math facts. And I'm going to check that recording to make sure that I like it before I attach it. Also notice here that it says recordings can't be longer than 120 seconds. So while they give you a lot more than just the 45 characters you had for typing in your instructions, you still can't be super long-winded with these. So make sure that you practice what you want to say for your instructions and keep it under 2 minutes. So let's see how my recording sounds. I'm going to click here on play recording. That sounds fine to me. I'm going to click on attach recording, and that window clears out of the way. Now we have text that will appear along the edges of the table. And when that text appears, the students will hear my voice explaining to them exactly what this activity pack is all about. And of course, they're going to see this lovely image with all these numbers, symbols, and the words basic math facts displayed as well. So in this video, we just learned how to set up that background for what the students might see when they first enter into an activity pack. And remember that a background image, as well as these instructions, are entirely optional when creating your activity pack. Check back for another video where we'll see how to actually add and customize the applications.